For the next demonstration, I have cleared out the user style sheet, and I've cleared out my styles.css author style sheet, and the page is back to displaying with its default styles. Because now that we've learned how the browser ranks style rules with a specific weight or importance depending on the source of that rule, let's also take a look at how the browser treats conflicting rules that are coming from the same source, that is the author. So what I'm going to do inside of styles.css is say that for paragraphs, I want to have a background color, and let's just use a background color of green. So I can save that and refresh, and you can see that the two paragraphs here are now green. And let me copy that style rule and paste that here inside of styles.css and just change the color. And let's try gray. So now we have a rule that says paragraphs should be green, a rule that says paragraphs should be gray, and the winner is gray, because when the browser sees these conflicting rules that come from the same source, it just uses the last rule that it sees that would apply to that element. So it's using the last rule here that applies to a paragraph that says things should be gray. If I were to take that rule and place it up here at the top of the style sheet and refresh, you can see we're back to green because it's choosing this rule. It's the last rule. So the order of rules is significant, and this also counts when you're using multiple style sheets. So let me take this gray style rule and cut it out of styles.css and put it in styles2.css and save that. And now we can come back to page.html. I'm going to copy this existing link tag, paste it in here, and include not just styles.css, but styles2.css, and refresh. And you can see that we're back to gray because styles.css said paragraphs should be green, but styles2 came in last and said paragraphs should be gray, therefore my paragraphs are gray. This ordering behavior, where effectively the last style rule wins, is also in play when you have imports. So let me take the link to styles2.css out of page.html, which will leave us with green paragraphs. And let's come into styles.css, and what I'm going to do is add an @import rule that says, please go out and fetch styles2.css and effectively place it into the style sheet. So anything that is in styles2.css will come into styles.css, and that's being linked into our page. Let me temporarily delete this style that's here. So effectively all we're including is styles that are in styles2.css. I'm going to save everything and refresh, and you can see that we have gray divs as specified by styles2.css. But then if I come back in here and add the style rule inside of styles.css that says paragraph should have a green background and refresh again, we're going to go back to green. So effectively again, this rule was the last one that says paragraph should have this background color. It's green. It came in after the rule that was imported that said paragraph should have a gray background. As your web pages grow more complex and your cascading style sheet files grow bigger and bigger, it can sometimes be hard to see which rule is winning and which rule is losing and being overridden by some other rule. And that's when developer tools can help you. So Internet Explorer has some built-in developer tools. If you just press F12 in Internet Explorer 9, this will bring up the developer tools window. And one of the first views that you'll get is an HTML view, where here on the left-hand side, you'll essentially see the DOM, the document object model, and that is all the elements that have been created in the browser. So there's the HTML element. The HTML element has a body element. And this is a tree. The DOM is a tree. The body has a few children. One of those children is the paragraph element that we've specified. And here on the right-hand side of the developer tools, under the style tab, you can see that there were two styles targeting that paragraph, trying to set the background color. The first one was from styles2.css. It tried to set the background color to gray. Because that has the strike-through font on it, we know that that rule was overwritten by some later rule, and we can see that that later rule was a rule that came from styles.css that says the background color should be green. So these developer tools can be quite invaluable when you're trying to track down why a style sheet might not be setting something that you expected it to set. Other browsers also have this. Let me show you in Chrome. If we come out and view this in Chrome, Chrome also has a set of developer tools. You can access that from the Tools menu, Developer Tools, and it's a very similar experience. Over here on the left-hand side, you see the DOM, the tree of elements. If we find our paragraph and select that, you can see here are the CSS rules that matched that element. So the selector said, find a paragraph tag. This one was from styles2.css. Since it has that strike through, we know that that style didn't apply because some other rule overrode it. And that other rule came from styles.css, and it set the background color to green. What's interesting about Chrome is it will also show you the user agent style sheet styles and the user styles. I don't have any user styles defined in Chrome, but of course it does provide a default style sheet, the user agent style sheet, that in this case wasn't setting any background colors on a paragraph tag, therefore nothing there was overwritten. So again, most every browser has these developer tools that you can either install as an extension or they come out of the box. Firefox, Internet Explorer, Chrome, they all have them, and they can be invaluable when you're trying to track down what style rules actually apply to this element and why does it appear this way. A CSS reset is something that you will probably encounter in web design, so I wanted to take a moment to let you know what a reset is when you see it. First, let me say that you do not need to use a CSS reset, but many designers will still want to use them because a CSS reset is a style sheet with rules that effectively override the default styles given by a web browser for all HTML elements. We've talked about the default user agent style sheets. Those are the style sheets that a web browser defines to provide the default look for a web page. A CSS reset style sheet will set the default margins and font sizes so that you always start from a known place when you write your own styles, because every web browser will have slightly different defaults. Using a CSS reset means it doesn't matter which browser the user is using, you know where your starting point is. There's a number of open source and free CSS reset style sheets available, so let me show you how to use one and what the effect is. First, let me demonstrate what a CSS reset style sheet is designed to do. What we're looking at here is our simple web page as it appears inside of the Google Chrome web browser, and behind that, Internet Explorer 9. And although the content appears to start at exactly the same position, by the time you get to the bottom of the page where that refresh link is, the refresh link is actually just a few pixels off between the two browsers. Now, to many web developers and designers, those few pixels do not make a difference at all. We're not going to care about them. But for some designs, you want to have very precise control over exactly where your content appears. And those few pixels can make a difference. Even inside of the same web browser, between different versions, content can appear differently. So the icon here beside the address bar in Internet Explorer 9 is the compatibility view button. When I click that, we switch from the IE9 rendering back to the Internet Explorer version 7 rendering. And when I click that, you can see the content moves around ever so subtly because Internet Explorer used a slightly different default style sheet than Internet Explorer 9 does. If you are extremely particular about your web design, this may be a cause for concern, and that is when you can go out and look for a CSS reset style sheet. And there's many available. This is one that comes with the Yahoo User Interface Library. That's a collection of JavaScript files and CSS files. One of the CSS files is a CSS reset style sheet that you can download and just include inside of your web pages using a link tag. Another popular CSS reset style sheet comes from Eric Meyer. It's on his website, meyerweb.com. In fact, the source code to the style sheet is right here on this web page at meyerweb.com/eric/tools/css/reset. It just so happens that I have that downloaded and put into a CSS reset.css file on my local drive, and I can include that into page.htm. So let me paste this in here and save this. And now let's come out and refresh our browsers. And you can see that the reset style sheet removed all the margins, removed all the font sizes. And now when we design our own CSS to style this page, we'll really be starting from scratch. It is a lot more work, but some people do want this level of control. And now you'll know what a CSS reset is if you come across one.